Well, we can do what I said before about the anti-inflammatory diet. Yeah, that you prefer certain foods, you stay away from certain foods, and then you exercise. Yeah, you hydrate enough. Yeah, and this is something we always forget. Yeah.
Welcome to Forever Young, the health and well-being podcast from Lanserhof. My name is Mario Pederzoli, and in every episode, join me in conversation with a variety of health experts and special guests as we explore what it means to live well. We may not find the secret to eternal youth, but join me on our quest as we explore just what it means to live a balanced, healthy, and happy life. Hello again and welcome. Well, after the glorious weekend we have just had, we can safely say that spring has well and truly sprung. We can look forward to sunnier skies, the dawn chorus, tree blossom, and blooming flowers. But maybe not everyone looks forward to spring. Whilst the season brings great joy to many of us, for others, the huge release of pollen can only mean one thing: the start of pollen allergies and the hay fever season. And for those of us affected, and that is 1 in 4 of us in fact, the symptoms we are only too aware of include inflammation, wheezing, itching, runny noses, sneezing, as well as watery and sore eyes. So how can we tackle pollen allergies? And are there any lifestyle changes we can make to help alleviate and manage these symptoms? Well, to help us make sense of it all is our special guest today, Dr. Ursula Levine. And Dr. Levine is of course a familiar face to many listening to today's show, currently practicing full-time here at Lanserhof at the Arts Club as our lead GP. Dr. Ursula Levine qualified in medicine at the University of Vienna with more than 30 years of clinical experience. Ursula is also a fully qualified FX Meyer medicine doctor and practitioner, with Ursula's expertise founded upon both Western and Oriental medicine. In 2019, Ursula graduated with distinction as a Master of Public Health. She is a qualified doctor of psychosomatic medicine and a trauma therapist, and here at Lanserhof at the Arts Club, Ursula works with individual patients, supporting them in accessing the best preventive and solutions-focused treatments available. Ursula regularly writes and broadcasts on fasting and supplementation for health, preventive medicine, trauma, medical stress management, gut health, and inflammation. Well, having said all of that, I'm not sure we could have a more qualified expert in this subject. So Ursula, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mario. Thank you for your nice introduction.
My absolute pleasure. Now, this is the first in our Feel Well series, so let me ask, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling wonderful. The sun is shining. I'm in my place, my favorite place of work. So what can go wrong?
Well, exactly. Yes, the sun is shining, which probably leads us to the main topic of today's podcast. We know we're approaching hay fever season and that pollen allergy affects 1 in 4 of us every year. So maybe in your own words, what is hay fever and what are the symptoms?
So hay fever is a common allergic reaction that occurs at particular times of the year. It is known as seasonal rhinitis, and it's sharing symptoms with symptoms that go all year round allergic rhinitis. Yeah. So it is a reaction to pollen from grass, trees and weeds during specific months, and it can affect both adults and children, unfortunately. The term hay fever, interestingly enough, derives from a widespread misconception in the 19th century that the smell of hay irritates the body. But as you said, hay fever can have many symptoms. So the sneezing and the itchy, runny or blocked nose as well, which we call allergic rhinitis, or itchy, red and watering eyes, which is an inflammation of the eyes. Wheezing, chest tightness, shortness of breath and a cough, or raised, itchy and red rash, which are hives. And then it can go as far as swollen lips or tongues, eyes or face. Yeah. So what happens when we have an allergy or with hay fever is that basically the allergy starts when our immune system mistakes a normally harmless substance for a dangerous invader. And then a massive reaction occurs, right?
Well, for those that are affected, and it really can be quite a miserable existence, we probably all know someone who is affected by hay fever or, in fact, has suffered or currently suffers with hay fever. And that's another question in itself we'll probably come to later about how, over time, people's symptoms seem to alleviate. But why do only some people react to pollen, and why do some people react worse than others?
Well, the short answer is we don't know. The long answer is there are numerous hypotheses suggesting possible reasons. The first one is the so-called hygiene hypothesis. The kernel of the theory is that we have become too clean in nowadays society. It was first presented in the 1980s by a British professor who found out that children in larger households with more siblings had a lower incidence of allergies. Yeah, so growing up in a big family where there is a lot of sharing and playing together and being outside, that creates a sort of healthy microbiome and a healthy environment for your immune system. The second theory is called the farm effect, which is basically the same, but that was a study done with an Amish community where people live, with the land, in barns in the countryside, and these people were much healthier, or the children were much healthier than children who grew up in the city, who did not have contact to the earth or to sand pits. And obviously farm animals as well. And the other hypothesis is the status of our microbiome, but we'll probably come to that a little bit later when we talk about our healthy lifestyle. The microbiome in our gut, it's what we mean, which are trillions of gut bacteria that live with us, basically for us, if we don't disturb them by our lifestyle.
So your point earlier, is that the case that we can potentially live too clean and too sterile an existence, and our immune system isn't able to cope with it as well as a result?
Yes, absolutely. And this is probably two factors. First of all, that we become too clean and we eliminate certain factors in our microbiome that don't live without anymore, or the balance is disturbed. And the second is that we don't expose ourselves to factors where we actually can train our immune system. And then obviously with the cleaning material, which contains toxins per se.
Okay, so we shouldn't worry too much if we're not too obsessed about our own cleanliness and hygiene, because actually there is some strength in our immune system that can be derived as a result.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I think there is a distinction as well. Pollen allergies can come from flowers, trees, grass. Do people typically suffer from one type of pollen or all types? How does this work?
Well, unfortunately, there is no typical profile. So you can be allergic to one kind of pollen, or you can be allergic to more kinds of pollens or different sources. So the allergy that you acquire can be by substances that you inhale, that you come in contact with, or you ingest. So there are allergies that you have from substances that you inhale or that you eat, for instance, or you come in contact with. This is, for instance, when you have a food allergy for nuts and you have a treatment in a spa with a cream or an ointment that contains that nut, you will have most likely have an allergic reaction, although the sort of the contact is a different one. So what you said is actually true, that 1 out of 4 people are affected by allergies. That equates to 16 million people. That's quite a lot.
Not to be sneezed at. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's a bad joke. Sorry.
Absolutely. And what we are actually at the moment experiencing is a sort of second wave of allergies. Yeah, there was a first wave of allergies about 50 years ago with, where the pollution in the cities, were much more rampant and less well managed as it is now. Yeah.
And so, are there presumably different times of year relate to the different types of pollen that are out there? So what are the key times of year for each?
Yeah, so the tree pollen occurs first, that's late March to mid-May most of the time, and it affects about 25% of people who suffer from hay fever. Yeah, the grass pollen that has actually two peaks because it can be flowering twice, is between mid-May until July, and then we have the wheat pollen that is typically end of June to September, but there was a big study in the US, between 1995 and 2011, where they measured temperatures. And the warmer temperatures have actually caused the pollen season to be 11 to 27 days longer than it used to be. And there is one thing that we don't have here, which is in the US. It's the poison ivy, and that's a big factor. So not everything affects us.
Right. So if you're particularly unlucky, the hay fever season, if you like, or the pollen allergy season can last 4 or 5 months every year.
Absolutely, yeah. And that affects our quality of life, right?
Yes, enormously, I would say. How do you recognize the symptoms of the allergies? Is there anything particular that stands out for you?
Well, sometimes it starts just with runny eyes, red eyes, sneezing and the such like, But it can become quite intense that you can't breathe really, and you have problems with your lung function, and we are still strictly talking about inhalants, so we're still strictly talking about the hay fever. I mean, it becomes more tricky when we talk then about allergens in food.
Yes. I'm sure that's another podcast entirely, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we talk about the runny nose, sneezing, puffiness. But what's happening to the immune system there when it's reacting? What's actually going on?
So the reaction is that when you come in contact with an allergen, you produce something that's called immunoglobulin E. It's called IgE. And each of these IgE, these are antibodies. And these antibodies are literally sort of acting in the background. So when you come in contact with an allergen the first time, these IgEs are produced, but nothing really happens. But when you come in contact with that allergen a second time, these IgEs have sort of connected themselves to so-called mast cells, which contain inflammatory agents that then actually, once you come in contact the second time, are exposed or are exploding in the system. So what I call, colloquially, we would call it like a hysterical reaction that is created of the immune system. And that can be quite massive,
So the immune system is effectively attacking the allergen mistakenly?
Yes, exactly. Because for some people, it's a harmless substance, no? Because pollen per se are not toxic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's causing inflammation. And what are the best ways that we can reduce this inflammation in the body?
Well, there are a few things. I mean, when you know that you are allergic, you can obviously do preventative measures. So when patients come to see me and they have allergies, there is a lot to do. And I always say, unfortunately, there is only so much I can do, but the ball is in your court. You have to deal with your lifestyle. And then we talk a lot about diet. We talk a lot about nutrition, and I give them a nicely created leaflet about anti-inflammatory diet or anti-inflammatory lifestyle, because there are triggers that or substances that trigger inflammation. Yeah, smoking, alcohol intake. Yeah, and we're talking about something that you can't change from the outside, in the sense of that you are responsible yourself, And food-wise, there are certain foods to be preferred, like oily fish or the fruit palette, with all their colors, vegetables, including the green leafy vegetables, and then as I said, the foods to avoid. I mean, no processed foods, no foods with added sugar or salt, the processed carbs or snacking, and obviously the alcohol,
So that's the prevention approach.
Yes.
Which, you're obviously advocating, but
absolutely.
Are you saying by making those dietary and lifestyle changes, what you're intaking, avoiding smoking, that would reduce, in this case, hay fever symptoms?
Absolutely it would. And obviously, I mean, not when you just start, when the allergy season starts, you would need, and we discussed that previously, you would need to start if you have a seasonal allergy in spring, you would need to start in the autumn before. Yeah,
so 6 months prior at least.
To prepare your system for what is coming. Yeah.
And do you have success stories with your patients that where you've seen these symptoms?
Absolutely. And the thing is that all these moderations in your lifestyle, they take time to kick in. Exactly. Thank you. And the further away you are from your optimal health, the longer it takes.
Yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's we have to take all this into account. Yeah.
So it's a life's work.
Really. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's throw in another curveball, because of course air quality is variable across the country, and obviously in urban big cities. Pollution is a major factor, and is there a link between severity of symptoms and air quality as well?
Absolutely. In the UK, air pollution is the fourth biggest health risk. With 360,000 people affected by air pollution. Health-wise, and there is something called. I really like that. It's called a TRAP. It's the traffic-related air pollutant. Yeah, so we are all exposed to the traps daily.
I've not heard that before.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously in agriculture as well, with the emissions, and the new enemy on the horizon are the incinerators. Yeah, because we're burning our rubbish.
Yes.
Yeah, but where does that go? Yeah, I mean you see the high, you call it chimneys. Yeah, but it's in the air. And in these new incinerators that have been built, the air quality is horrendous, and they're built out of the city because the air pollution in the city is already bad, So these incinerators are built somewhere in a nice countryside, and that air pollution is really bad, And then obviously we have the diesel exhaust particles as well, But
yes, which we mistakenly for. A generation thought that was better than
absolutely.
Than petrol.
We pushed for diesel. And we know that if a baby is exposed to air pollution in the first year, it has a very high risk of developing an allergy.
Goodness.
Yeah. So this is really, really tragic.
And okay, so what you're saying is those that live in the city having to deal with hay fever or pollen allergies, plus with a combination of pollution as well, their symptoms will be far worse.
Absolutely. And there is the second one, it's the indoor pollution. The indoor pollution is secondhand smoke.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a child of the 60s. I was exposed my whole childhood to this secondhand smoking, and that really, we know that there is lots of research where we can prove that there is a connection between adult onset asthma, and secondhand smoke, but not only the secondhand smoke, but building materials, new furniture, fresh paint, dust mites, mold spores, and pet dander.
Pet dander, as in dandruff from
yes,
pets.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not only the hair, but it's literally the dandruff. Yeah.
Goodness, it's all around us, Ursula.
Yes, absolutely.
We're doomed.
No, we're not.
But no, we're not, because is this an old wives' tale? Does local honey help build immunity to local pollen?
This is really interesting. We know from well-researched honeys there are three, and we know the best known is probably Manuka honey. Yeah, Manuka honey is a New Zealand honey. It's actually a European New Zealand because it's actually the honey is produced by European bees. Yeah, so it's a joint venture between New Zealand and Europe. But there are two types of Malaysian honey, the Tualang and the Galem, and they have shown a very high number of polyphenols. And polyphenols are substances that are produced by plants which have scientifically proven effect of on inflammation. They are antioxidant, they're antimicrobial and anti-allergic. Yeah. What we know from the Manuka honey is that it modulates, and remember when we said the IgE attaches itself to the mast cells, which then release and create havoc. The Manuka honey modulates actually the mast cell response. So we know. Yeah. So when we talk about the local honey, there is the theory that when you take the honey from the local pollen that you might be allergic to, that when you take a little bit of this honey, that you actually modulate your immune response by literally training your immune system to these little doses of the pollen. However, there is not enough research out there yet, but it makes sense, the immunization, because when we will speak about the therapies, the immunization, in various ways has a big importance,
So honey is a natural antihistamine. Effectively, would you say?
No, you can't say that. Yeah, it has anti-inflammatory properties. Yeah, not only when you eat it, but also when you put it locally. Yeah, so on wounds
so you apply it topically.
You apply it. Yeah, and I've just read research where you actually inhale it, in inhalers, but that is obviously just in experimental states.
And talking of allergic responses, separately, but pet allergies, is your immune system responding in the same way with pet allergies as it does with pollen allergies?
Absolutely. The biochemical cascade is always the same. Yeah.
And similarly, would changes in lifestyle help that too?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously with pets, it's a little bit, if you're allergic to one pet's dander, doesn't mean you are allergic to the other pet's dander. Yeah. And sometimes it has even to do with the pet's age. Yeah. So kittens, the dander might not make you so allergic than from a grown-up cat, for instance. Yeah, and then it depends. Where are you? Do you meet that animal outside? Yeah, or is it inside?
So you acquire your little kitten, your cute kitten. Everything's fine, and it's only later that the problems might start.
Yeah, happened to me in the past.
It has.
Which is very sad.
Talking of antihistamine, mentioned earlier, that they're widely used to help with allergies and hay fever in particular. Is there any alternative medicine to use instead of traditional medicine? that you'd also recommend to help reduce symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget the antihistamines are not the only medication. Yeah, they're like chemical medication. There are the corticosteroids, and there's also biologics. Yeah, and they are quite new on the horizon. Biologics are produced natural sources, produced with DNA technology, and they could be they are proteins mostly from blood. They are vaccines. You might have heard of bioidentical hormone replacements. These are all biologic substances. So there have been quite a success with these biologics for certain people, for certain allergies. And then we have the immunotherapy. Yeah, the immunotherapy, what we call in colloquial terms allergy shots. Yeah, so you get tiny little amounts of the allergen. Yeah, in over a period of time, around 3 to 5 years. So you have an allergy shot. I think they start with a very strict regime, and then you have them once a month, and then once every year. Yeah, and that sort of helps with your immune response. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of in the high courts in the 17th century when people were very worried about arsenic poisoning. Yeah, that someone poisons you with arsenic. So people would take tiny bits of arsenic to prepare themselves. Yeah, and it worked. Yeah. Yeah, and then obviously, what my favorite approach is, additionally to all the medication that we can give, is the functional approach. Yeah, where we look at nutritional deficiencies and supplementation. Yeah, which helps with the lifestyle. Yeah, and we talk especially about. Well, the big favorite is vitamin D, vitamin C, selenium, zinc, magnesium, and omega-3 supplements. And these nutrients then enhance the natural production of glutathione, which is a powerful antioxidant, which reduces inflammation. And that's, for instance, in our IV treatments. Yeah, it's one of the most popular ingredients. And what we know is that when we go down this functional approach, that we actually influence the biochemical reaction by boosting the immune system, and we boost cells that are called Tregs or T regulatory cells, which are part of the immune system. And they function as a switch for the immune cascade. Yeah, so unwanted inflammatory responses can literally be toned down. Yeah, and then I personally work with a method that's called microimmunotherapy, where we give low-dose immune messengers, so part of an inflammatory cascade, as a toning down agent for the immune system. Yeah. So these are capsules that you take every morning over 3 to 6 months. And these are not only preventative measures. Yeah, this would be as a proper therapy. Yeah, in case. Yeah.
So for a patient coming to see you for the first time, Ursula, maybe let's look at that.
Yeah.
That believes he or she is an allergy sufferer, particularly with hay fever, for example. How do you go about assessing the patient, and what tests do they go through before you can then prescribe changes in lifestyle or medicine?
Yeah. So most people who come to see me have a suspicion. And sadly enough, I say that most of the patients who have allergies are underdiagnosed. Yeah, so they have been treated for lots of other things, but not for allergies. Yeah, most of the time I send patients to special institutes to do the skin prick test, SPTs, where you literally get little scratches of the allergens, and it's tested if you are allergic to certain substances, and that can include inhalants, so for hay fever or food or cat or animal dander, that is. Yeah. And these are scratches. So for kids, that would be the back would be used, and for adults, the lower arm. But I think in the past, the blood tests have literally taken over the skin prick test. And we perform blood tests. We have lots of panels from different allergens. So some are strictly for food allergens, some are for inhalants or for animals. So we can then, and this is what I like, is that we create the bespoke diagnostics. Yeah, and obviously it involves a long conversation. Our patients all get a questionnaire sent where they send in their medical history. So I have a pretty good idea what we're talking about beforehand and can prepare the proper tests then. Yeah. And some patients, so they don't know that they're allergic, and sometimes they think they're allergic, but they have an intolerance, which is another ballgame altogether.
Yes, which of course there is a distinction there.
Yes, yeah. So what I called before the allergic reaction, the hysterical response of the immune system. The intolerance means literally that you're basically lacking an enzyme to break down certain substances in your body that can create a delayed response. Yeah, doesn't necessarily mean it's not as strong, yeah. So it doesn't mean it's harmless, yeah. But it's a different biochemical reaction, yeah.
So important to understand the
distinction. It's important to understand, and it involves a completely different therapy, yeah. Because with the intolerances is basically apart from certain enzymes that you can give as treatment is the elimination diet. I mean, obviously, that's part of a food intolerance, food allergy treatment as well. Yeah, I mean, if you're allergic to nuts, you better stay away from the nuts, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, in all cases, can you help in this? In this testing procedure, with the results come back, you can always help?
Well, we can definitely always alleviate the symptoms, yeah. But it depends really, when do patients come, and a little bit, I have to say, are the patients ready to change their lifestyle? Yeah. Are they staying away from alcohol, or are they, to reduce inflammation, it's also, to reduce the stress. Yeah, and this is a big topic in my consultations, because how do you work with the stress? Yeah, I mean, we all went through difficult 2 years. Yeah, and when you're responsible for a big company and you have 5,000 employees, I mean, I appreciate that you are stressed, but that might not help with your symptoms. Yeah, but then I always tend to work with patients. Where are your resources? So I'm not only looking at the bad things, but at the good things. So as you said in the beginning, what do we appreciate about this day? It's nice weather. And that made us both smile, right? Yes. So, I mean, there are the little things, yeah. But as always in life, the little things are sometimes, the best things.
Do you get frustrated with those that don't always follow your advice?
Well, as you said before, I've been in this for more than 30 years. Frustration, I wouldn't say frustrated, but it's. I think the patients are more frustrated with themselves because they know they have to come in and tell me the truth, because I will find out anyway. Yeah.
And what about the other side of the coin? Those patients that do follow your advice and you see real progress, that must be its own reward.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, sometimes I don't see them again, which is good, right? Yeah, because when you don't need the doctor. Yes. But at I get then nice letters, or I get, next time I see the patients, we talk about something else, and I say, that's part of the past, yeah, and that's the best thing, yeah.
Let's talk about, this is more anecdotal, but you'll have heard a lot of your patients and amongst our peer groups as well, that with age, hay fever seems to alleviate itself, or it doesn't seem to be as strong with the passing of time. Is that true? What's your view on that?
It's partly true and partly not true, because it can change. Yeah, I mean, with age, our immune system gets a little bit tired. Yeah, that means our responses might not be as accentuated as they were when we were young, but at the same time, you can develop allergies all of a sudden out of the blue. Yeah, so there is literally, we are all different, and there is no rule, unfortunately. Yeah,
and of course, pollen. As an allergy, it's an airborne allergy. Would it be right, therefore, that when it is wet and damp, that alleviates the symptoms, or not?
Well, that's partly true for some of them. Yeah. So if wind blows pollen in the air, dry and windy days, would be worse for you. Yeah. So of course, a rainy and a humid day would be fine for these pollen allergies. Yeah. But if you are allergic to mold, a rainy or humid day makes everything worse.
There's no escape.
No escape. Yeah, and dust mites. Yeah, sometimes I always say, how often do you change the air filter of your air conditioning in your car? Yeah, and what about if you're a frequent flyer? Yeah, so what about the air conditioning in enclosed environments? Yeah, and then obviously cold air can be a problem. Yeah, because the lung is a very sensitive organ, and it's literally, it has a direct contact to the outer world. It's the only organ that has a direct contact, an inner organ. Yeah, so it's very affected by cold air. Yeah. So when patients have asthma, they might be affected. The crisp, cold winter air is actually not very healthy for the lung because it's too dry. Yeah, and then we have the heat. Obviously, ozone ramping. Yeah, that could trigger asthma attacks. Yeah, and in winter you have all the indoor allergens. Yeah, like the pet dander and the dust mites. Yeah, so. Doomed if you do and doomed if you don't, it seems. Yeah.
Well, we won't leave it at that.
Yeah, no.
Because, of course, as you've said throughout, there's so many things we can do. And so here we are in March, at the time of this recording, and I appreciate we haven't had the 6 months that you recommend to make the lifestyle and dietary changes. But what can we be doing now in the run-up to the season otherwise?
Well, we can do what I said before about the anti-inflammatory diet. Yeah, that you prefer certain foods, you stay away from certain foods, and then you exercise. Yeah, you hydrate enough. Yes. Yeah, and this is something we always forget. Yeah, you check your micronutrient. Yeah, what you need, and there are beautiful tests where we can find out what exactly you need and what helps you with the detox. Yeah, and then practice good sleep hygiene. Yeah, and so these are the most literally the common sense recommendations. Yes. Yeah, then obviously you have personalized supplementation and medication. Yeah, and as in treatments. We work with an oral supplement where we create bespoke supplements. Yeah, that patients get on a 3-month cycle. They have blood tests every 3 months, and then they get another supplement. Yeah, because obviously when they need different micronutrients in spring when they are allergic, other than later on in the year, and we have the IV treatments where we add as well as other like high-dose vitamin C that is highly anti-inflammatory, the glutathione, which is the major antioxidant. And we can create tailor-made infusions or IV treatments for your gut health and for the gut health as well. Rather, we have supplements where we nourish the microbiome, which is very important to fend off inflammation or allergies in that case. We have the possibility to offer whole body cryotherapy, which has a massive impact on inflammation, and it has a very strong addictive effect, because you can get really used to it.
And the endorphins at the end are wonderful.
Absolutely. I always say it's like having a bottle of champagne under the skin,
Without the hangover the next day.
Absolutely. And we have ozone therapy, where we incorporate ozone into IV treatments. And we have our newest project and our newest item is the hyperbaric oxygen therapy, where we reduce inflammation and where it's proven that it's also it increases the wound healing. And then with the team, we create a bespoke package, where we recommend a certain amount of treatments that literally create a bespoke package for each patient.
I think that's the watchword here. It is all highly personalised and bespoke, isn't it? Everything that you do here.
Yeah, there is no one size fits all, and this is something that we have to learn, and we always have to remember.
So for anyone listening who indeed would like to make an appointment to see Ursula, please email lanserhof@theartsclub.co.uk, and as Ursula has mentioned, we have a great number of services here that can be put together in a personalised, bespoke plan to help alleviate symptoms and manage the condition. Ursula, it's always inspiring talking to you and listening to you, and thank you for this advice today. How would you like to leave it? What last piece of advice would you like to leave our listeners with?
It's never too late to change.
Very well said. And on that note, thank you so much. Enjoy the sunshine.
Thank you. You too. And thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And we'll see you very soon. Cheers, Ursula.
Thank you. Bye.